What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my builds guide and unit review of Legendary Veronica, Ninja Camilla, and Rearmed Ophelia, who are on the Hero Rises banner and they're color sharing. So I'll be going over the builds as well as the fodder usage that you can get out of these units if you get multiple copies. So Legendary Veronica is a wind legendary unit who can boost up your speed, and she's got Enclosing Dark as her preferred weapon. So this gives her -1 special cooldown, which makes Enclosure into a 1 cooldown special, and if she initiates combat or if she's solo, then she's able to get +6 attack and speed in combat, and is also able to get the half version of null follow up, and she's also able to inflict more debuffs on the enemies depending on the number of foes within 2 spaces of the target. So if there's 1 foe within 2 spaces of the target, then she can inflict -4 speed and resistance debuff, and if there's 2 or more, then she can inflict -8 speed and resistance debuff and also get the fire sweep effect, which is definitely really good. And she also has the dive bomb effect, so she can immediately double in the player phase, which is really good. So she pretty much has everything that you can ask for in a mage nuke by having this kind of weapon, which not only has half null follow up, has got dive bomb and a conditional fire sweep effect, but also the fact that she comes with Enclosure, a 1 cooldown special essentially with her weapon that can boost damage by 20% of her attack. And when Enclosure triggers, it can pierce through any kind of damage reduction percentage based skills which are not special skills. So this is able to pierce through damage reduction like Dragon Wall, Vital Astra, and Close Call, and all of those damage reduction skills, which is really strong. And then she also has the half tempo effect, so she's able to bypass the guard effect, which is extremely strong. So she is basically the best cavalry mage nuke that you can have, which can pierce through damage reduction, who has got half null follow up, half tempo, and has got a really solid special in this. And she also has Panic Smoke 4, which she did introduce, and this basically inflicts -3 debuff to all stats of the opponent and the target within 2 spaces of that opponent and the panic status, and it also grants the foe penalty doubler effect to the unit and the allies in the card owner direction. So the foe penalty doubler is basically the vulture effect or the Plagian effect, which is going to be helpful with the debuffs that you can do. So overall, Legendary Veronica is a very strong red mage cavalier who can function as a very strong nuke and also destroy a bunch of far safe tanks because of her Enclosure and the fact that she can pierce through damage reduction. And because Enclosure is a 1 cooldown special, many of the far safe tanks are going to be having Hardy Fighter, Aegis, or Sacred Cowl, so that is going to be triggered on the first attack, and then Enclosure is going to be triggering on the hit where they do not have any kind of damage reduction, special. And she's a premier Aether Raids defense unit because of her capabilities, and she's also really solid in summoner duels. And Veronica can be really fast with that base 45 speed and also hit really hard with that base 42 attack, which also has a super boon. And being able to pierce through the damage reduction is just perfect in the meta right now, and she can also function really well in Arena because she is a wind legendary unit. So she can score 190 BST with the dual skill built into her Wind Blessing essentially, which is going to be making her a really solid wind legendary unit, and essentially one of the best wind legendary units that we have got because of how explosive her player phase is. If you do get multiple copies of Legendary Veronica, then merging her is definitely going to be helpful for Arena, but if you do want to fodder her for Panic Smoke, then it's usually going to be useful as a general skill on many of the mixed phase units, or on units like Mail Morgan and Guntra, which do have weapons that can take advantage of these kinds of debuffs. And it can also be used on many of the Omni tanks, and it could be useful in something like Aether Raids offense. So it is a pretty general skill that is useful on many slotsy skills of many of the builds. If you're going to be building a Veronica, then her base kit is going to be completely fine. You can just give her reposition and run something like Blade Session. But if you're going to be running her in summoner duels, then Pulse Smoke is something that you can run in her slotsy because of the conditional fire sweep effect that she has got. So this can be really helpful in pulsing down the pre-charged specials. And for Aether Raids defense, lull speed resistance is going to be a lot better than the Fortress skill because you're going to be able to completely neutralize the buffs to speed and resistance, which is going to be helping a lot in the combat. And like I said, she is a premier Aether Raids defense unit, so you definitely have to watch out for her, and lull speed resistance is the way of optimizing her for that game mode. And for Arena, if you do plus and merge her, then you can of course run her with a 300 SP passive sloppy skill and seal resistance 4, so that you can score high and basically score like a 195 BST unit. So that is definitely helpful for optimizing the max score that you can get out of Legendary Veronica. Ninja Camilla is a red mage flyer with Flowery Scroll as her preferred weapon, which makes her really amazing. So this weapon gives her -1 special cooldown, and it does give you +5 defense and resistance at the cost of inflicting -8 speed on Camilla, which is not really that big of a deal because she's really slow, and it does have the dual phase brave effect. And then finally, if foe initiates combat and if she has got more resistance than the foe, then she's able to get the vantage effect. So she basically has the resistance preempt built into her weapon, which is going to be really strong. And because of coming with close salvo, she's going to be functioning really well as a vantage sweeper right out of the box. So Ninja Camilla is really powerful with that base 43 attack, which also has a super boon and with this kind of dual phase brave weapon. And she also has -1 special cooldown, which means that she can trigger 2 cooldown specials like Glimmer and Ruptured Sky on her brave hit, and that is going to be very powerful. And because her resistance is pretty high at base 40, she's not really going to be having much of a trouble triggering the resistance preempt effect of the weapon. And she does have seal resistance and attack resistance hold to help her with that. So most of the time it is going to be pretty easy for her to trigger the vantage effect from her weapon, because most opponents are not going to be having as much resistance as Camilla. And this kind of brave effect can really help her kill many of the annoying units like Brave Salif, for example, who does have a miracle weapon, but he doesn't really have very high resistance. So Camilla with this kind of brave weapon can really function well in the player phase and also shine in the enemy phase with that vantage effect. And she does have close salvo, which is going to be helping her, just retaliate back to the melee units and trigger her dual phase brave weapon against them and just easily kill them, because a lot of the melee units are not going to be having high enough resistance to prevent the vantage effect. And Hardy Bearing is definitely something that you have to watch out for, like you have to with any kind of vantage unit. And she also has Seal Resistance 4, so it does inflict -4 resistance on the foe in the combat. And basically, if they do not have any kind of penalty on them on their resistance, or they cannot neutralize their resistance penalty, then you can inflict even more penalty on foe in the combat. And if they do have a penalty on resistance, then you're able to get the guard effect. So overall, this is going to be functioning as a pretty solid skill, because in combat you can get the resistance debuff on the opponent, which is definitely pretty good for the condition of her Flowery Scroll, and it does inflict -7 resistance on foe throughout their next actions if they do survive Camilla's brave attacks. And attack resistance hold is going to be the perfect slossy skill here, as you can pretty much decrease the foe's resistance, and she's going to be able to function really well as a vantage unit. And even if the Hardy Bearing is present on some kind of mage, most of the time Camilla can survive, because she is going to be able to have this kind of vantage effect at full HP, so she doesn't really need to fall at like certain HP threshold to get the vantage effect. So it's really important when you're trying to counter her to put Hardy Bearing on a unit who can actually, kill Camilla and not be some kind of mage unit who's gonna be not doing that much damage through her high resistance. Ninja Camilla functions fine at +1 merd, so if you do get extra copies of her and if you do want to fodder her for Seal Resistance 4, then here are some of the options that can make use of this skill. So Summer Micaiah is pretty much one of the best users of this skill, because she does have the brave effect from her weapon and also has a resistance check. So this can definitely help her quite a lot. And this can also help Yune as well, because she's able to pretty much get the guard effect out of the Seal Resistance 4 because of the debuffs that she can do. And similar to Yune, Aversa is also one of those units who can make use of Seal Resistance 4 because of the debuffs that she can do. And you can basically get Seal Resistance 4 and Attack Resistance Rain 3 at the same time. Camilla can be run with her base kit with reposition and something like Attack Resistance Catch or Attack Resistance Solo as the Sacred Seal, so that she can have more attack. So stacking up attack is really important on any kind of vantage unit. And you can definitely use her in Aether Raids Chaos as a vantage sweeper with the support of someone like Duo Thor, because the exposure is going to be giving you the extra damage essentially. And Warbreaker of Thor means that you can run Iceberg and pretty much trigger Iceberg on the brave hit, which is going to be doing a lot of damage with her resistance. So it's definitely something you can do, and this generally is going to be working out a bit better in the Chaos season, because units are not going to be getting the mythic buff on the defense, so they're not going to be as bulky. But this can also work in the regular Aether Raids offense, like in the light season. If you're trying to vantage some of the teams, it can definitely work out. And many of the teams do not have Hardy Bearing, or they just have Hardy Bearing on a mage, so there Camilla can definitely shine and just vantage sweep their team. So she's definitely going to be a pretty nice unit for the vantage strategy, just as one of the teams in Aether Raids offense. And you can also run her with attack resistance catch 4, I guess, if you don't really want to run her with close salvo. So that is going to be the option that you can run, and pretty much double down with that with the Sacred Seal, and just run Glimmer as a special because she's going to be able to trigger that on her brave hit. Rearmed Ophelia is a red infantry mage with Arcane Eclipse as the arcane inedible weapon, and this does have -1 special cooldown and also the quick pulse effect. And at start of combat, if the unit is at or above 25% HP, then you're able to get +5 to all of your stats, the guaranteed follow-up attack, and also neutralize debuffs on your attack. So this is overall a really solid weapon for nuking because of the quick pulse effect that you can get. And this is going to be amazing on so many red mages. And Rearmed Ophelia herself is going to be able to make pretty good use out of this weapon because of her high base 44 attack, which does have a super boon, and she does come with Special Spiral 4, which is also going to be a very coveted fodder skill, which a lot of people are going to be appreciating. So because of her being an infantry unit, you can pretty much give her many of the premium skills and use the duplication method to basically pass off that limited skill, especially if you get multiple copies of Ophelia in the Hero Rises event. And Ophelia herself is not going to be that stellar and that standout of a unit herself because unlike, someone like Rearmed Tana, she doesn't really have her preferred skill. So it's a bit hard for her to stand out because of that fact, because you can pretty much give the Arcane Tome and all of these skills to another red mage, and they can just function with higher merges than Ophelia. And Special Spiral 4 is going to be helping you get +5 true damage and also help you pierce through the damage reduction skills when the special triggers, and it does have the effect of the regular Special Spiral, of course. So if you get multiple copies of Rearmed Ophelia, I've made a full video on the best users of Arcane Eclipse, and if you're looking for like the skill duplication which you can do with the Rearmed heroes, I've also made a video on that, so you can check those out. But if you're trying to fodder her for Special Spiral 4, then here are some of the good recipients of that skill. Raveless Cynthia is one of the best recipients of Special Spiral 4 because of her amazing weapon refine, and this can allow her to pierce through the damage reduction, which is just really good. And you can also run this on legendary female Violet, who doesn't really have Sublime Heaven like her male counterpart, so this can help her pierce through the damage reduction. And so can female Shez by running this in her slot B. We also have Monica with the Desperation weapon. So if you run Null Follow-Up in her Sacred Seal, then you can definitely run Special Spiral as the slot B skill. And Cronian definitely appreciates the Special Spiral 4 because she can get more true damage, which is going to be helpful with her Vantage playstyle. And the damage reduction is not going to be an obstacle in her path. And Ascended Ishtar is also one of the best users of Special Spiral 4 because she already has the tempo effect built into her weapon. So this is going to be allowing her to pierce through the damage reduction. So these are just few examples of how you can use Special Spiral 4 on many of the mages. Of course, non-mages can also make use of this skill and function well with it. Like if you're trying to run Vital Astra on a unit who doesn't have a -1 special cooldown weapon. So there you can definitely try and make use of Special Spiral 4, but mages are going to be appreciating this skill because they don't really have a special that can pierce through the damage reduction. For building up Rearmed Ophelia, you can simply refine her arcane weapon and give her reposition and run an ideal skill like Attack Res Ideal and stack up on the attack. And you can also run her as an AoE mage by running Life and Death 4 and Life and Death 3 as the Sacred Seal. So she can function really well as an AoE nuke as well with the Special Spiral 4. Unfortunately, you're not able to pierce through the damage reduction with Special Spiral 4, but still you do get the +5 true damage, which does get added to the AoE damage as well. And you can also run Iceberg on her if you want to stack up resistance and run something like Attack Resistance Oath Force so that she can teleport. So there are not too many options for Rearmed Ophelia, but there are definitely some of these which you can run on her. Make sure to share this video with your friends who are summoning on the Hero Rises banner, and if you enjoyed this video then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed it, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Camilla's Vantage against Hardy Bearing. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.